Hey, everybody. It's time for the Green Truck Records podcast, hosted by me, Cayle Hunter, I am Green Truck Records. And this is our first ever podcast. What we're going to do here over the next little while is we're going to do every artist that releases something on Green Truck. We're going to do a little introduction podcast like this one. And then every song that comes out on the label, we're going to talk about it. And so today we've got the other half of the flagship artist on Green Truck Records, Shelby Cobra himself, calling from the lovely, what is it? Where are you at? Oakley,
with the Y.
Oakley, California. But it's not as hot. In Chico right now today, it's going to be like 108. So
we're looking at 102, something like that.
Oh, that you got to bring a jacket. Anyway, you guys are spoiled down there. So I wanted to talk about, because it's really interesting, I want to talk about how Cobra Hunter came to be. And I think it is kind of interesting and hilarious at the same time, right? Because you and me musically, we've been friends for, I don't know how long, 20 something years. Probably,
too long. Yeah. That's what I tell everybody. I mean,
a regrettable amount of time. And, but you are obviously a tattooer, a country artist. You've been a country artist forever, like an outlaw country, very just like, traditional style. And I come from the super heavy extreme music world where we just like tune our guitars like crazy low and, scream indiscernibly the entire time. Tune it to drop Z, like, and then things go like your tuner just implodes on itself sometimes. So we come from those worlds, and for us to make a record, it seems super strange, right? But
yeah,
I think,
it's not as strange when you get the backstory of our history, I guess.
Yeah, well, why don't you tell it from your side, and then I'll tell everybody how you're wrong.
The truth.
And then we'll
I'll tell my side, and you'll tell everybody the truth.
And then you tell your side, I'll tell the truth.
Well, I mean, I had bands in college. We met in college, and I had the Butte County All Stars, and then I had, which was a terrible band, like the first band I ever played in.
What and a great then name. Butte County All Stars. That's cool. I seriously love it. I think that's
very
awesome.
Pompous for being first year kids in Chico, and then all of a sudden we're the Butte County All Stars. And then I started doing solo stuff around the time when I was tattooing, and then I did the whole Reverend Shelby Cobra thing. And you worked next door at the Underground Records, and would spend more time in the tattoo shop than you ever did working at Underground Records. And
I wasn't really at my peak productivity during those years, I don't think, because I had to set an alarm for like
the
1
work ethic
PM.
wasn't quite there. You were concentrating on other things.
Had other priorities in life. Yeah.
But then let's see here. Was that Red with Envy? Your band?
No,
back
I was in Odd Man with Scott Wallace.
Odd Man.
And Matt Pedry.
Yeah, Scott. Yeah. And what's up, Scott? And we became friends through that. And then we always liked ZZ Top and AC/DC. Huey Lewis was our big underlying glue that binded. There's not a lot of big Huey fans out there.
No, well, there's always I think that, we should stop on that, because Huey Lewis, there's people that like a song or two, or they remember Huey Lewis, but there's like very few, especially people our age. Like I think our parents were like right in between there. They were Huey fans. But people our age, it was like, oh, when I was a little kid, there was Huey Lewis songs around, and that was cool. But you and I were straight up Huey Lewis fans. Like you were the first person that I met that I was like, oh, I love Huey Lewis. And you were like, yeah, no, I love Huey Lewis too. Not ironically or anything. I just listen to the music because it's awesome. And I'm like, yes, he gets it,
Yeah. I mean, there's you, me, and then that guy on American Psycho. We just really dig Huey and everything he does. I celebrate his entire catalog. And then Marty James. Marty James, he's a Huey fan too, but I didn't find that out till years later. I like that dude.
I know something about him, right? He gets it. But yeah, it was like, and then guys like Eddie Money and stuff. That's where we would connect, like the Eddie Money and AC/DC stuff, especially ZZ Top, big time. We definitely, right. I think that's kind of cool.
We also like the style that if you're going to do it 100%, right? So we started, which brings us to our little band that we did, the Bleed Rock Trio, when we had our buddy Ryan Davidson on bass. And then we agreed from day one, if we're going to cover something, it should we would always try to take a song that didn't rock hard enough, like Christopher Cross's "Ride Like the Wind."
Right.
We're like, that deserves to be a rocker, dude. Every word in that song is dope, right?
Yep.
We turn it
Yep.
up to 11, play our little hearts out, but every song had to have a solo intro, a 5-minute solo in the middle of it, a drum solo, bass solo,
Clap
on the
solo,
way
studio
out.
clap, like the
Let's
audience
go.
clap solo. Yeah.
Let's go. If it's
I,
overboard, put it in the song.
agreed. That was the best. I think.
And then
I think you and I talk about that sometimes. How we had no concept of what other people would think. We were just like no subtlety, no nothing. We were just like going for it, and like this would be fun, and whatever made us laugh, we would do that in front of people, and they really enjoyed it. It connected with people, and I learned a lot from that. Just like, hey, when you're doing your thing, whether it's good or bad or indifferent, like when you're totally comfortable in your own skin and just doing your own thing, that connects with people, and I learned that from that band.
I think it helped that we had other bands that were remotely successful. If you wanted to take yourself serious, you could do it in those bands. But in the Bleed Rock, we were like, no, this is a honky tonk drinking band. Like, I was the Last Stand in Willows. We'd go down there and just blow the doors down on that place. You're doing solos off the bar lights, walking around the whole place. One time you forgot your drumsticks and started whittling tree branches so we can get the job done. But we killed it. And everybody loved all that stuff. Everybody loved it. The more haywire you got, and then then you go, all right, man, I can push it a little bit, and then you bring it back to your other band, and
I also think like
the best parts.
Yeah, it was like all the best stuff about music. I'll give you as far as that, like playing a bunch of cover tunes. I always thought like, oh, you're playing cover tunes, you're washed. You know what I mean? You're done. That's still fun, but I never thought I would be in a cover band. But with you and Ryan, we just had so much fun, and then people would pay us because they actually enjoyed it. Like in our serious bands, we'd be begging for shows. Like, hey, can we go open for this band? Can we play at your place? This band, people would call us like, hey, we'll give you a couple $100 to play the bar tomorrow. Or you had somebody drop out, and we wouldn't even practice. We'd show up, play for like 2 hours, get hammered, have the time of our lives. And they were just like, when are you coming back? And I never even really felt that before. I was used to like begging people to let us play. And we played a wedding. Somebody paid us to play their wedding. Do you remember that?
Fool.
Fool. Absolute fool.
Daniel Taylor's buddy.
Yeah,
old DDT.
Daniel Taylor's buddy. Yeah, he played bass and then he passed out while standing up while playing. Like that was a funny story about that one. Maybe a story for another time. But
picking up some of these names we're dropping.
Yeah. Sorry, DT. I'll leave that story out. But I just thought that the Bleed Rock trio, the practices were fun. Like just like learning, hey, we should try this one, and then trying, and if we only knew one verse and the chorus, we could make the rest up and just make it our version, our fun version of that song, and I had the best time, and I know you had the best time in that band. We just laughed all the time and did things to make each other laugh, and that like brought other people in, and it was the best. So that's how you and I connected musically, and that was probably what 20 years ago or something like that. But that's how
we met,
right?
And then life happens. I move on, you move on, you end up becoming, what do you like 7-8 figures a year now, helping out Elon Musk with stuff. You do some big things. I don't know. I don't really know exactly.
I lost track. I don't talk about money. It's beneath me.
But then COVID happened, right? And when I told myself, all right, I'm taking this opportunity to learn how to record on my computer. I bought one of those little home jobbers at Guitar Center, and I said, all I want to do is put guitar and vocal down on a relatively good sounding mix, essentially so I could learn my own songs. I never play the same song twice just because I'm a scatterbrain, and I have so much going on up there that I got to get it on paper before I forget it, right?
Yep.
So I would just essentially sing it, and then I can go back and sing to the radio and learn my own songs by listening to myself. And then I heard that you were good at this stuff, so I would go, hey, Cayle, what do you think of this? And I've always respected your opinion. You have a nice way of letting a guy down when he's really terrible, so I like sending my stuff to you.
What do you mean? I only have positive things to say, and then maybe I'll put like a little Note in between some compliments, and then there you go. You're fine. You're great.
And then I think you were kind of itching to start to record some stuff too, because I would send my songs to you and you would send them back, and it would be like a full heavy metal band playing what I just sent you on acoustic guitar. And I'm like, yep, that's how it should sound. That was exactly how I thought it was going to go.
Well, it was so
and then
fun for me
you
because
started teaching me a little more. You taught me how to do MIDI drums, and that changed my whole life, because then I could record a full band essentially in my basement.
Well, it was so good for me because you would send me these little, acoustic things or whatever, and I had never got to work on anybody else's stuff. I'm still obviously novice at being a home studio person, I'm not a professional. People don't come and see me. So when I got a hold of somebody else's music, I was like, cool, let me see what I can do with this. And that was the most fun. That's the first time I had ever worked on somebody else's stuff that I didn't just create at my house or whatever. So with you, it was like just a fun new toy. Like, what's the best I can make this? What could I possibly turn this into and like jazz it all up?
What can I turn this pile of garbage into that might be remotely listenable?
It was actually like, oh, this is killer. I don't really care about that. I want to see what I can do to it. You know what I mean? I didn't even, I was more like, hey, look what I did to your song. Not like you should keep it, but check this out. What I was able to do with this little, these 2 files that you sent me, I turned it into this. Yeah. And for me, the fact that you were comfortable enough with that and you weren't like, hey, dude, could you just make the guitars louder? I don't know. Can you just chill out a little bit? You were like, dude, this is cool, man. And that gave me a lot of confidence.
On a side note, like, we were talking about this the other day, but how neither of us knew what we were doing, really. You know what I mean? We're pecking away at it, and we'd watch tutorials to figure out how to get a sound that we might want to hear on there or something. But we made some mistakes that actually sounded cool, and there's something to say about, like, nobody around to tell us that we're doing it wrong. We got some cool shit out of there just by accident,
Yeah, I totally agree. It was really cool that nobody was looking, and we weren't showing it really to anyone else. So
we didn't have a time frame.
Yeah, we had no deadline, no audience waiting. We weren't even trying to be anything. We were just like, this sounds cool right now. Let's see how cool we can make it. Oh, what about this idea that you have? And we would try stuff and mess it up. And we just had no thought of failure because there was no expectation, right? There was nothing like, oh, somebody's not going to like this, or this doesn't sound good enough, or whatever.
Oh, trust me, I've lived my whole life with nobody having any expectations of me. I know how that
I know your wife. 0 expectations. Anything is a bonus. I just thought it was so cool because we could learn. We could just learn on each other's stuff. And during COVID, I think some people used COVID as an excuse to why they weren't doing anything with life. It's like, oh, COVID has got me messed up, which is, true. It was a weird time. But I think both of us had the attitude of, well, I'm never going to have this much time off from work again. Like, it's an opportunity to try something that I wouldn't normally have time to try. And so this was like a lifesaver to me, just getting to work with your stuff. As soon as I got an email from you, I would go down to my garage and plug it in and start messing with it. Like, yes, I got something awesome to pick away at, and I would turn those things around quick. I remember you were like, dude, I think I sent this an hour ago and you already got this whole thing. And I was so excited when you would send me stuff.
Well, not to get mushy with you either, but we would call each other on the phone every month or so and check in and say how you doing and how's the girls and whatnot. But it was just awesome to get to reconnect with you too, on being able to talk to you every other day. And then, like you said, with the phones, that was just like Christmas. Whenever you get a text from Cayle, like updated file, I'm like, oh, hell yeah, this is going to be good. It's still like that.
I still feel like that too. Whenever you're like, hey, I got this idea, in my email, I'm always like, yes, I get so pumped, and it seriously brightens my day. But I remember telling Katie was asking me like, oh, what are you doing? Is Shelby doing a record or something? And you're helping him. And I was like,
who's Katie?
Yeah. Oh, my wife, Katie. Sorry. For those of you who don't know, my wife's named Katie, but she would be like, well, what are you guys doing, a record? And I was like, we're just making music, and it gives me a reason to talk to Shelby every day. Like that's my favorite part, is I just get to talk to Shelby all the time. And because when you went away, I went away, just went to life. I still always had tons of, we always just loved whenever we could reconnect, but it was so few and far between. and it would be weddings and funerals, basically like everybody else. But then when we got to do that, it was like, dude, I have a reason to call Shelby all the time and keep tabs on him and see how his lady's doing in his shop and just.
And then, I've reminded you why we took so long apart. You know what I mean? We're frankly tired of each other again, and that's cool.
This is our, we already had, this was our first record, our reunion record, our breakup record, everything all in one. It's a career retrospective already, because I'm just like, dude, Shelby makes me nuts. Oh my God. But dude, we went, even during the recording of this, which took forever, we went through a lot. I just think during that, like during COVID, and I moved, and we just went through a lot during the recording of this record. So I think that was cool, and I'll get mushy on you, is what was awesome is sometimes I wouldn't have time to work on it. I would, be distracted, like moving or job stuff or whatever. And you never were like, hey dude, could you just like maybe, dial back in and get me this? I just want it. You'd be like, hey man, take your time. When you get back to it, you get back to it. And I always did. But when I did, I was able to be excited about it and focused on it. And you never, ever made me feel like, hey, dude, you're kind of ghosting me right now. Because sometimes that's just how it had. I don't know if that's how it had to be, but that's how it was. And you just never made me feel bad.
I think there's a big advantage of being busy myself, as far as that. And especially when you're a little older, having a band, you realize that everybody's got shit to do. So you got to be a little more patient.
Well, that's true, but not everybody actually puts that into practice, right? People are just like, hey, well, what are you in this band for? What are you doing? They get all threatened if you spend time doing other things. But I mean, I recorded a whole Arm for Apocalypse record while we were doing it. I did a whole mood. I did a whole bunch of stuff, and we just kept pecking away at it. And now, like, there's a lot of music. There's stuff that we now have mixed and mastered and ready to go. But there's also a ton of other stuff. Like when you were just working on your country album the other day in the studio, there's a stuff you're like, hey, do you have any other songs of mine that I could work on? I have some extra studio time. And I was like, yep. And like, I just realized how much stuff that
this is all the stuff. That's just some of the stuff that we recorded with the country band over the last month or something.
And I think that was cool too, because you would send me your country songs, your rock songs, your anything, and you let me kind of chime in on all those. And then sometimes, and we'll get to this on other songs when they come out, it's like I would just call you up with a song and idea. Oh, I got this chorus idea, and you would turn that into a song. And I always thought that was awesome. That I was always jealous of that.
Well, we start talking about how the songs came along. We'll get into some of those stories, because that's the best.
Those are fun. But when it comes to Cobra Hunter, what finally happened was, going back to our cover band days, I always thought your voice sounded rad over like the Creedence stuff and the AC/DC stuff, and like when you were doing like snarly kind of rock vocals, right? Because we would do stuff where you could sing clean and pretty and all that, and you did great at that too. And I think that stuff was more your comfort zone, because that's what you do with your country band. But I was like, man, I like Shelby as a rock singer. He just sounds like, he's got this like gravel in his voice and this breakup that's really cool. And I always want to hear him over some like big heavy rock guitars and see what that's like. And then I think one day you were just like, well, write something, send me something, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll send you something. And then I worked on it and sent it over to you. And if I remember correctly, well, first of all, I thought this is going to be too heavy for Shelby. And then I sent it over. And if I remember correctly, I want to say a day later, maybe 2 days, you sent me the vocals back, like the whole thing with your demo vocals on it. And I was like, this is rad. I got all pumped up because it sounded like I was hoping it would sound like you just let loose. You didn't like, I don't know. It was exactly what I was hoping. And then that opened up the whole possibility of like, okay, I can write some rock songs, not just like your country stuff. Like I could write some original rock songs for you to sing over. And that's, I think, instead of just us working on your country stuff, that's where it was fork in the road. And like, let's do a rock project, and it really inspired me, because you came up with stuff so fast. Like you wrote a whole song like in a day of lyrics, you know what I mean? And they were good and coherent, and they had a strong chorus and everything like that. And I was like, oh dang, And so that inspired me to write songs with choruses, just like chorus sounding parts that were open. And I knew you'd fill them up with something, just something good, something funny, something memorable or whatever. And you always did. And I just kept cranking them out, this one. I want to hear them. Oh, go ahead.
I would just dig it when you were like, hey, I wrote this and it's not quite hard enough for A. What do you think you could do with it? And the best part is too, you'd send it over and you would just look around and write whatever name it was that you saw or whatever came to your head as the title of the file that you sent me. And then I would write the whole song around that.
Dude, I didn't mean to about that.
Do that.
I did. I had to talk to you about that. I was like, hey, man, are you going to start writing lyrics based on these working titles? Because I literally, as I'm typing, I'm just making it up. Or I'll see something, I'm just like typing it in there so it has a unique name in my computer. And I was like, you got to let me know if you're going to use those, because then I might have to think about it, what I'm putting in there. And you were like, I don't know, maybe not. If it strikes me, I'm going to use it. If it doesn't, then I won't. And now I got to think about what I send you over. But I think that was the coolest part for me, is just saying like, oh, I wonder what Shelby would sound like over a kind of AC/DC sounding song. So I wrote one kind of in that vein, and then in more of like a down type of, almost like Leonard Skinner, if they tuned down a little bit and had their gain turned way up, like I wonder what that would sound like. And we just experimented with stuff. And I think when it was after a while, I think we were like, dude, if we put these together, it could be an album.
Yeah.
And that kind of blew me away.
There's a couple heaters on there that we wrote them. We're like, dude, I would listen to this. I would buy it. So why not? Right.
But I just didn't think, I thought it was like a cool 1 to 3 song thing, but we kept trying stuff out. And then I look back and I'm like, man, I think we're only like 2 songs short of a full album if we wanted to just concentrate on this stuff. And then wrote a couple more that I was pretty pumped on, and we turned them out. And now I think, and plus we mixed in a couple of covers, which is really fun for us, fun for me anyway. And I like, it just blew me away that we just kind of pecked away at something, and then all of a sudden there was an album there.
Yeah.
Right.
And the name's cool too, and it worked out.
Well, yeah, it was like, well, what should we call this thing? Like, you're Shelby Cobra, I'm Cayle Hunter. Cobra Hunter sounds hard as hell, right? That just sounds hard. That was like a 2-second discussion, I think. I don't even know if we had a discussion. Yeah.
We locked in Loomis for the title, though. Here's another name. Matt Loomis drew that logo, and that was kind of solid. That's just linked it all together.
When he drew that
we were
logo,
bona fide.
Yeah. As soon as he came up with the logo and it had the Cobra Hunter, I was like, oh, that's it. Because, dude, Loomis is the best. He's the best. He's done artwork for me on other albums, and like to have a dude like that just in your friend network who's so talented, kind of like you, where I'm just like, hey, write a song about this, and you're like, got it. It's like for him, I'm like, hey, me and Shelby did this thing where it's like rock, but he's singing over it, and he was like, okay, I got it, and that was it. Like, just turn it over.
Done.
Yeah, it was like, man, how do you do that? He's just the sweetest guy, and he's crazy talented, and that always, to have somebody like that, just access to somebody like that is so cool. And I'm glad that we got to kind of connect like those, just our Chico-ness with Loomis. He's awesome. And now we're recording. Oh, what's up?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
I was saying just a lot of this, us doing this project, it was cool because all our friends who've done the same thing kind of grew up and were in bands in college. I've been getting them back into doing it. Clifford Greenwood and all those guys started recording again. I'm like, dude, go buy this setup. We'll walk you through the process. And now it's like you're just the older rockers are just having to shift gears a little bit to put their music out. But it's awesome. It's awesome.
I love that, man. I love hearing that Cliff is just making music because he should make music. It's like he should be making music. He makes rad music. Like, why are you stopping? It's like, oh, I don't have access to this or that. You're like, you do now. Do you have like $200? Make an album. Like it's pretty cool.
Some kid got a tattoo the other day that said, if you want to be a writer, write. And I just thought that was the most profound little thing. Like, don't talk about it, just be about it. Like, You got to start somewhere, right? You can fake it till you make it, no matter what you want to do. I don't know. I thought that was cool on a side note.
That is really cool. If you want to make music, why aren't you making music right now? Today, it's like people talk trash about technology and stuff like, oh, music isn't the same as people in a room and all of that. Sure. But I also wouldn't be able to make music with you if we didn't have technology. It just wouldn't be possible. So there's so much music that should be getting made that isn't. And now there's no excuse. Like now I can get a great guitar sound from my house and you can record drums at yours and vocals at yours. And like, there's not some big barrier to making rad music. It's just different.
Right. Yeah. With technology, you told me, I mean, you can get 85, 90% of the way to a radio quality song these days with everything you got on a PC.
It's really cool. And then we're also lucky that we have somebody like Chris Keene in our friend network, who's a Chico guy, who's a professional producer, songwriter, musician. He's in Emory, tours with Saves the Day. Was his band Surrogate's one of my favorite bands of all time. I just love.
Attitude sucks, but
yeah,
no, kidding.
He is a real piece of work. I mean, but whatever. I mean, you get him on the right day. And no, he another one of just the sweetest, most humble guys, incredibly talented.
Yeah, and musician. He's a genius.
Yeah, we go to his studio, Cutter's Cathedral, and we're like, hey, we got this ball of clay, and we think it's really close, and he's able to take it over the finish line and make it sound how we wanted, and better than I ever thought it would sound. He
on the head, and he goes, "Sure, yeah. I'll do this for you.
Here you go. Here you go, little guys." Yeah. Oh yeah, this one's on me. But yeah, we're so lucky to have Chris mix it, master it, record some stuff for us and just help us take it over the finish line. So now I feel really good about releasing this stuff and, proud that it's not just a me and you project. Like we can release it to the world. And if anybody listens to it, I'll feel proud of that. And not like, I'm not explaining it. I'm not like, oh, well, we only had time to do this. And so that's why it sounds so terrible this way. It's like, hey man, check it out. If you like it, because you like it. And if you don't, that's cool. But it's not because I'm making excuses. There's just there's nothing like that. It just, I feel good about it.
Yeah.
So that I think is the story of Cobra. We also, I don't know, we haven't played any live shows. I didn't ever think that we would play a live show, but I think Cobra Hunter we might try to put something together. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking, so I think we talk more about that. Now it's about hammering out dates and getting everybody in the same spot at the same time.
I think it should be, it should be easier because if I wrote all those songs, we don't have to, it's more about your band kind of practicing, getting them close. And then I need to learn some of those country songs.
The new set of the Mustangs here, like they like rocking. So I'm going to teach them a chunk of the songs and then have you put the sprinkles on it when you play with me.
Just tell them, turn that gain, get the gain knob, crank it up, tune those guitars down a little bit. They'll be great. They'll be great. So that's going to conclude our Cobra Hunter, our episode 1 Cobra Hunter podcast here on Green Truck Records. And Shelby, thanks for talking trash with me and getting everybody up to speed on Cobra Hunter.
You got it, brother. I love you.
Love you, brother.
All right.
Bye.